Hey everybody, welcome to this month's session of the VOA Academy. We're looking at April 2021. We're going to be focusing on commercial VO. I'm really excited about that. This is an area where I've focused my past on many times. I just love doing commercials. It's a lot of fun. You can be very, very creative, and yeah, I think you're really going to enjoy it here this month. Now, question to you all, what do you think about when you hear the word commercials? Probably think more about radio and TV, right? Some of you may know about the other aspect of this whole business, which is the internet. If you don't know about that, welcome to the group. We're going to be talking a lot about that this month as well, because that's a huge resource for us. It's a huge area for us to gain some more work. So, I mean, we have, YouTube obviously is a big one for that. Internet radios like, Spotify, Google, Google has their online radio system as well. I can't remember what it's called, but anyways, they have that. Tons of other streaming services, things like podcasts, anything else that you can think about that is an online or has an online presence, we can provide a voice to that. So that's a massive opportunity for us to gain some really good paying jobs and hopefully some repeat customers as well. So with that info in mind, I am so very, very happy to have Domingo Castillo as our special guest mentor here for this month in the VO Academy. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of a bio about Domingo here, just in case you don't know him. I was fortunate to have him as one of my voiceover coaches there last fall, I believe it was. Amazing, amazing guy. I'm extremely excited to have him on board with us. So a little bit about Domingo. So he is a Chicago-based voice actor with nearly 3 decades of experience as a full-time working professional. He has 23 years of experience as a professor at the Columbia College in Chicago, teaching in the Broadcasting and Communications Department. And in July of 2020, so I guess it was in July, he started his own workshop of online voiceover classes. Like I said, I was very fortunate to be part of that. Big thanks to Big Jim and to Brad, Mr. Brad Storm as well, for setting that connection up. So Domingo's a fantastic coach. Excited. All right. So if you want to take a look at Domingo's stuff, you can go to his website, domingovoiceover.com, and I'll put it in the description of the post that I put here for the video as well, so you guys can take a look at that. Now, this is really cool because since he started his online voiceover sessions there for different actors and talent back in July of 2020, he's had over 70 sessions that he's completed, and his classes have been completely full every time. So that just shows how good this guy is, right? Now, he's enjoyed the last 25 years as a full-time professional musician as well, band leader, and performing as many as 125 dates annually. Not so much last year due to COVID, but hopefully that stuff will start turning around here for him and his bandmates as well. So now Domingo can be heard on things such as the narrator of The Moon and Beyond, which was a documentary commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, which aired on Discovery Channel China and won the 2019 Asian Academy Creative Award for Best Documentary. He can also be heard on the voice as the voice actor on Sunny Australia's 2020 movie trailer campaigns for Vin Diesel's Bloodshot. That was a really good movie, actually. And Mila Jovovich, I always mess up her name, but she was in a movie called Monster Hunt. So yeah, he is the voice actor for that. He's currently represented by Lily's Talent of Chicago and trailervoiceartist.com as well. Now, again, I'm absolutely thrilled to have Domingo join us here for this month, and I'm very, very excited to learn with all of you as well. He's got just a wealth of knowledge and information for us, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of information in the video here that's coming up for you guys right now. Take a look. Hey, Domingo, thank you so much for taking part here with the VO Academy. I really, really appreciate you joining us here for the month of April. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. And yeah, I've had so many people this month contact me and say how excited they are to have you join us in the group here and the wealth of knowledge that you have. So it's an absolute honor for me and for everybody in the group to have you here. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you asking me, and I'm glad we can spend some time together.
Perfect. Perfect. So we're going to jump right into it here, Domingo. I got a lot of questions that I want to ask you,
Sure,
and
sure.
hopefully, it'll be able to give some insight to people in our group as well, and start to kind of peel back the layers of the onion of what commercial VO is all about. Okay.
Sure.
So first off, I just want you to tell everybody just a little bit about you and your experience in the VO world.
Yeah, I started in 1993 as a radio intern, as an intern at the radio station here in Chicago. I worked at the smooth jazz station here
Oh,
in
smooth
Chicago.
jazz.
Yeah, when it was popular back then. And again, an intern at the bottom.
Sure.
Of course,
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid. I'm showing up at all kind of crazy times, working in different departments. I only wanted to work in production. I didn't have any interest in other fields, but the general manager at the time was very wise. And he said, okay, let's take your 16 weeks here. 8 of those weeks, you're going to be working in production, but those other 8 weeks, I want you to work in every other department. He rotated me in engineering and sales and promotions. And it was actually good for him to do that, or good for me that he did that, because I got to see, oh, this department, this is interesting. And then this department, I certainly still don't want anything to do with, but it's good to be well-rounded. So I ended up working at that station for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
and it was unique to go from the bottom all the way. I mean, at the end of that station, ultimately they flipped format. They changed to a different sound. I had my own radio show. I had my own shift on Saturday afternoons, and it was kind of fun. But I did a ton of production. I voiced a lot of tags. I voiced a lot of 60s and 30s and 15s and imaging. And that was wonderful. Through the radio station, I was able to pivot into teaching here at Columbia College, Chicago. And I had never taught before. And I'll just, it's a little secret. I don't have a college education. I took 2 courses in college. I took a piano course and I took a photography course, and that was it. That's the extent of I don't have a college degree. Yeah. And I said that to the college person who interviewed me. I said, I don't know if I have any business being here because I don't have a degree. And he heard my demo, my production demo. And he asked, is that you on your demo? I said, well, yeah. He said, that's you doing all the hands-on, all the sound. Yeah. And he goes, okay, good. Because I want you to teach that to students. And so I was an adjunct professor for 23 years at Columbia College. Wow. And I loved it. And I found that I am a full-time musician. I worked in radio. I still do VO work. But I found that, and I'll say this out loud, teaching is my favorite gig. Yeah. Corey, you and I discussed it before we went live, but it's been a year since my last gig with the band, and I miss it, and I hope to get back to it. I love that, but I'm so fortunate that I've been able to teach these past several months. In 2020, I started teaching my own voiceover classes online. Not through the school, just because there weren't a whole lot of classes taught in person last year for obvious reasons. So I've just been doing that since June and July, and I know a lot of your members were with me. You were with me.
I was one of your first students.
There you go.
And Brad and Big Jim and who else was there? There was quite. I think Larry Morrow was there.
I think you're right. I've got a screenshot of Washeke. And,
yes.
I've been thinking of all these people, but that was a wonderful experience. I didn't expect it, and through that experience, it kind of branched off into me being able to open up my own voiceover workshop, much like you have done, right? And to continue teaching. And so, I'm still doing that. I'm still doing voiceover work. I'm still a full-time musician, and I'm still teaching full-time.
Right. Now, is there any possible chance for you to go back to teaching in a class?
I don't know the answer to that. It's a little bit up in the air. There were some big changes that happened last year. Okay. I honestly, I'm really enjoying the way I've configured it for now. Yeah. To be able to teach from home. I live about an hour. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. My wife works from home. I work from home, and so we're able to take lunch together and. The classroom is fun, but I mean, it's 2.5 hours in the car.
That's right.
So, I mean, to be able to do that from home is nice.
I found the same thing too. I mean, it's, all things considered with COVID and how terrible it was last year and how it's still kind of progressing into this year here. I believe it made us have to rethink about what it is that we want to do with our careers, with our lives, with our livelihoods, right? And so, there's been a lot of entrepreneurs who have jumped into this in 2020 to figure out, hey, is this something that I can do? Is this something where I can go? And there's been a lot of success stories, that have come from this terrible thing that has happened worldwide, right? But like yourself, I mean, I was in health and safety and did a lot of corporate training as well. And you'd have to drive through traffic every day, get to the office, and then you got to deal with the office politics and all that kind of fun stuff, right? And then you do the corporate training and anything, which is a lot of fun. Same thing, like you, it's up in front of a group of people and educating them on some pretty important things, right? And so I really enjoy that as well. But there is something to be said about flipping that around and doing this kind of stuff from home in the comforts of your home, and setting your own schedule and your own hours and all that kind of stuff, which is a bonus for what we do as VO in general when we have our own home studios, right? So that's amazing. Yeah, no, that's good. What about the radio station? Do you miss the radio station?
I do, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to work more in commercial VO work and to be more active with that. When my radio station went away, I kind of stopped doing VO for a little while. My band was super active. I remember one year with the band, we did 42 weddings in 1 year. And that's the most we've ever done. It was incredible. I don't want to do that again.
That's a lot.
I mean, it is a lot, and I'm proud to say that I didn't drop the ball. I got it done, and I got
good
a lot of experience from that. I don't want to do that again. No. But yes, it kind of worked out well because my radio station went away, but my band started to really get more busy.
Right.
And then when that started, everything, there's ups and downs, and in one of the more down periods of my band, I was able to start focusing more on VO work. And this is pre-COVID. So around 2015, 2016 is when I started to kind of reconnect with doing this voiceover work.
Well, that's a good question as well. I mean, 2015, 2016 is when you started to reconnect with us. How did you actually get back into voiceover? Did you know somebody
I didn't really know anybody. I mean, like anything, you just kind of snoop around. You go on YouTube. I saw Bill DeWeese. He's probably the biggest voiceover presence on YouTube.
Yeah,
and he's got a ton of free content available, and so and through his guidance, and I was like, oh, okay. I joined some of these online platforms, these pay-to-plays, and like you, have done a handful of them, and not all of them are a perfect fit. But I basically started that way, from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we all start, for sure. It's just getting, being nosy, curious, and trying to figure out, is this something that I might like to do? I have some experience, or I have some, desire to do that. And Bill DeWeese was a massive influence in my startup as well. So yeah, he's another guy I can't say enough kind things about, because he's helped not only myself, but I'm sure thousands of other VO professionals, get into the business and get to the levels that they're at as well. So no, it's pretty amazing for sure. So, okay, so that's cool with that. Now here's a good question for you as well. So what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your VO career?
Yeah, well, okay, so I'll go back to 1993. I guess that's when I began.
Yeah.
I guess, boy, that's tricky. I mean, I've always been a patient person, and I think even then, I'm 23 back then, and I'm thinking there was times when I was still kind of impatient, and you don't know what's around the corner, and you think, is this going to get better? Or, geez, I want to be on the air, or I want to do more commercials, and ultimately I did. And so maybe patience is one of the things.
Patience, yeah. That's a good lesson. That's something that's pretty important, right? Because I mean, I know, like you, I was in radio too, and I had that same feeling when I was in radio. I'm like, I want to be on air. I want to do production. I want to, blah, blah, blah. And it just kept going like that. And I was doing overnights, and, 3 o'clock in the morning, the all request hour, time spot. And it was always the same 3 guys that would call in at 3 o'clock in the morning to, request Twilight Zone and all this kind of stuff, right? So
golden earring.
So yeah, it was interesting, but I like you, I wanted to get going with this, right? And so patience is massive. Now being in my 40s, yeah, I totally agree with you again with this. I still have to be patient. I still want to have my VO career up to a level of, Bill DeWeese and, all those big guys, right? And that would be amazing. But I have to take those building blocks to get up to where it is that I need to go, right? And learn those tools that I need to progress my business. So, and that's where the patience comes in, right? So yeah, that's a great, I really like that. That's a great point. So now, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career in commercial VO?
Yeah, first of all, I hope you love it. You have to love it. I mean, sure, it's nice to get paid and to admire others who have success in this field. But if you're doing it just to get paid, you're not going to be successful, or you will be successful, but you won't be happy.
Right.
No matter what line of work you get into, if it's in the creative field, I hope you have to love it. And there were times when, for instance, I loved being a musician. And when I started playing in bands that actually made money, cover bands. And so I said to my friend who was the band leader, I said, wow, this was so much fun. And I get paid. Oh my gosh. And I remember telling him I would do this for free. Right. And he said, be careful, don't tell me that, because, so he was kidding, but you have to love it. And because what happens is, if you love it, then you do a good job at it.
That's right.
And then clients notice and they come back to you. And yeah, it's important to make a living, but I found that if that's your motivation, it's not the best motivation. A lot of times, I've seen my share of people who I can kind of tell where their motivation is at, and then interestingly, they kind of fade away after a while. They don't stick with it. If you would still do it even if you weren't being paid, that's a good barometer. I love this so much. Some of my voiceover gigs are so fun. I would do them even if I don't tell my clients this. I would still do
just
them
be with us. It's okay.
Okay. I have so much fun doing these. I think it's a bonus that I'm getting paid to do this. Or maybe I would think I would do this for half the amount I'm getting paid. And so, yeah, it's important. The advice I would give is it's important to love this. And because if you don't, save yourself time, don't do this. Don't go into this line of work.
Save yourself the time, save yourself the expenses as well for it, because there's a lot of equipment that's pretty pricey that you could purchase, right? So time invested into coaching and all that kind of stuff too. That's all a component of it. So I totally agree with you. You have to love this. You have to love this. And there's nothing for me, there's nothing quite like that feeling of having that script on my monitor. I hit that record button on Adobe Audition and I stand there and I just look and I have this biggest smile on my face every time.
Good.
I can't believe somebody hired me to do this. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. Amazing. I just get goosebumps about it even right now. Right. So that's really cool. That's a great, a bit of advice. Thanks for that, Domingo.
Sure.
So here's a question in regards to marketing. Now, we've had this discussion a few times in our group here. How do we market ourselves? What is it that we need to do? So I'm going to throw the question out to you. How do you market yourself? What do you do, Domingo, to get clients coming in and saying, hey, I really want to hire this guy?
So I thought about this, and that this may be a disappointing answer, but so I have my voiceover career and I have my teaching career, and these days they're kind of equal as far as how successful they are. And with my voiceover career, I'm not doing a ton of marketing. I've committed to, about a year and a half ago, I started my YouTube channel. I'm looking over at the window right now. I've got it open, and I am curious here. Wait, I want to make sure I know. I've got 218 subscribers, so I'm not killing it, but I found that through my YouTube, I've actually got clients
really
who have seen my postings. 2 years ago, a lot of the postings were, I wasn't on camera. They were finished projects. As I scroll down here, my face isn't even on there. And about a year ago, I decided, you know what, I'm going to put my face on camera. I'm going to talk. And I've had clients approach me who have seen I don't know how they arrive at it. I have one client who admits to me that he just Googled, he found me on Google somehow.
Really? Wow.
And I'm not doing active marketing for my voiceover.
So it's all
work.
organic type leads that are coming in. There's nothing, there's no paid advertisement, no paid marketing ads.
Certainly not. No, I'm not. I don't have a marketing person.
Yeah.
I don't have a manager. So I'm not really promoting myself as far as.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, again, I don't know how disappointing that is, but as far as my teaching, and you do this as well, I post that also to my YouTube, but also LinkedIn is the #1 social media thing that I'm connected to. I don't do Facebook anymore. TikTok, I feel like I'm too old for that, but that's just me. Instagram, I can't even keep up with the one I'm on. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm trying to keep up with that.
Yes.
But if you're motivated, sure, get on Instagram, because I know colleagues who get work on Instagram and TikTok. Sure, you can stay connected to those. But yeah, LinkedIn is the sole social media platform that I'm on. Yeah. And I post screenshots. And that's how I generate my own. But I got my first paid client, voiceover client, from LinkedIn last week.
Really? Wow. Okay.
I showed this to my wife.
Yeah, that's great.
Again, I'm not advertising, so to speak, other than just promoting, posting screenshots of thanks to my Sunday class, or thank you to my February students. Right. And here are my February final projects. So again, I don't know how much of an answer that is, but I'm not doing a ton of marketing and promotion on
and that's, I don't think you're doing it like the traditional way. Like I said, doing paid advertisements, doing all that kind of stuff. You're doing it more organically. And as growing it organically, it's going to start to flow even more. It's going to be that snowball effect, right? Where more and more people start seeing it and they're like, oh, Domingo, right? And then more and more people start coming to your YouTube page, and then it'll grow, which is, I mean, if you don't have to spend any money on marketing, like marketing advertisements or nothing like that, that's phenomenal. That's really good, right? Yeah. So, kudos to you on that for sure. And in regards to LinkedIn, I just listened to a podcast the other night on the weekend there. VOpreneur, do you know Scott, Mark Scott is his name.
I think I've heard. I've never listened to this show, but this name sounds familiar.
So he's been was in radio for years and all that. He's got a great voice as well. Runs his own training program, all this kind of stuff, right? But he had some really good points in regards to LinkedIn and how the algorithm is. And what it is that you need to do. He had 5 steps on what you can do to increase your LinkedIn profile and all that. So it was good information. He said, as well as many other VO professionals have said, LinkedIn is an untapped resource for us as VO talent.
True.
So if you're not on LinkedIn, if you're not creating a profile and engaging with people, and that's the big thing, he said. I've heard this on a few occasions. It's not just a matter of simply liking a person's post on LinkedIn. It's how are you actually engaging with that person? So LinkedIn's algorithm wants to see you engaged with that person. They want to see you talking with that person, because the more you do that, then that gets you noticed in their algorithm system, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I know you comment a lot on people's posts and encourage and support and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely going to be an advantage for you in regards to marketing your business itself, right? So that's good. That's good. I like that.
And it's free.
Yeah, that's the bonus, right? It's all free. You don't have to pay anything extra, which is lovely. So now, are there, we talked a little bit about this, but are there specific freelance platforms that you use to attain commercial work?
Yeah, so I've tried a lot of them, and I know some new ones are coming up. Oh, you and I spoke. I have to be careful, because I find that I'm having my hands full just keeping up with the ones that I'm part of now. But I have done voices, and I've done voices 1, 2, 3. Back a while, there was something called Voice Bunny, if you remember that. Badalgo, there's Upwork, Fiverr. There are a couple more, VO Planet. I'm trying to think of all the emails I get. And I'll be honest, I don't keep up with all the ones that I'm a part of, and that's on me.
Right.
But also this, I have to be careful how I say this, but I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to work too hard. I have another voiceover colleague who says he was of the same mindset, that he's comfortable with the amount of work he has.
Right.
And so he only wants to work X amount. I have 2 colleagues who come to mind. They only want to work X amount of hours a day, and they love the work, but they don't want to get burnt, and they don't want to make it their life.
Right.
and a work-life balance. And so I think that's important. I'm at a good level right now where I've got a good amount of teaching work going on, a good amount of voiceover work going on. And then ultimately, I imagine the band's going to come back. So I want to make sure not to put too much on my,
sense.
And that, again, I'm sorry if that's the disappointing answer, but
No.
so yeah, I do try and keep active with the few platforms that I'm on. But I guess what also helps, I have an agent here in Chicago that I've been signed with for a few years. And as you know, I'm also on Trailer Voice Artists, and that keeps me busy as well. So Bill Deweese talks about all the spokes in the wheel, so for instance, I see people sometimes get frustrated with a specific platform or this platform, and what that tells me is that they don't have other spokes going on, because like anything, it's kind of like a garden. Maybe your tomatoes are coming in, but your squash aren't looking so good. Well, okay, you got some good tomatoes happening. Water the squash a little more, and then in a couple of weeks, everything comes in. Or maybe you'll have a time when nothing's coming in. But if you have only one spoke in your wheel, you're going to get really bummed out when it's dry, when it's kind of everything goes up and down.
Exactly.
And when this one spoke goes down and it's the only one you have, you're going to get really bummed out. So it's important to start a YouTube page. It doesn't cost anything. Post examples of your work to YouTube page. Do you have your own website? I mean, that's not free, obviously, but
it can be. I have Weebly.com, and that's just a free site that I use. I mean, you can do the paid version too, right? But
that's true.
Yeah, it gives you a bunch of stuff, right? I think Wix has a free version as well, right?
Okay, so I take it back. Your website can be free. So if your platform that you're on, first of all, I hope you're on more than one. You should be on more than one.
Right.
But if they're a little quiet these days, well, then work on your YouTube page, work on your website, do a little bit of work every day on your career. And so before you know it, months have gone by, and now I look at my website, which isn't really, I do it all myself. It's not spectacular, but sometimes I think, wow, I did all that work. And then I think, oh, I got to clean up this part. But you work on things. You're an artist. You work on things a little bit of a time. You put it away for a while. You come back to it. You tweak it a little more. And patience and persistence
again, right? Patience again. That's the big thing. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Cool. Okay. So that gives us some information about freelance platforms, and I agree with you on that. Get yourself involved in as many freelance platforms as you can, just to get a profile set up, right? More fishing lines in, the more opportunities that you might have, right?
True.
There's going to be some sites that you might prefer more than others, and that's fine too. But I don't discourage people, just like yourself, from setting up profiles on those platforms, because you just never know what's going to happen, right? So that's good. All right. Now, I know you have an agent. Do you recommend getting an agent?
Yeah, I have two. So
two. Okay, perfect. Are they both out of Chicago, or one in Chicago and
one in Chicago and the other one Trailer Voice on the West?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Brent's company.
So Brent does agent work as well?
Well, he's a talent broker.
Oh, okay.
And so in a given week, I'll receive several auditions from him. He sends them to so he might get a call from an agency that's, we're looking for a voice that sounds like this, or we're looking for someone. And so Brent will think, okay, I've got a handful of people who fit that category. Let me send this audition to that group of people.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how it works with Brent and myself.
Gotcha. Well, that's
but
pretty
you
cool.
just asked me a question and I forgot. Agents.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's crucial. I've got a colleague of mine. Okay, he started as a stranger. I just messaged him cold. We didn't know each other. I just messaged him and I say, hey, I see you're in the voiceover. I'm in the voiceover too. We became friends. And so now I consider him a friend. And he quit his full-time job in education administration based on his freelance work, based on the success of his voiceover work that he generated on his own. And he has no agent. He was able to quit his full-time job of 5 figures and a comfortable 5 figures. And now he works from home, and he's been doing this for at least the last 3 years, working from home, no agent. So to answer that question, there are different ways you can go about it. And sure, to have one helps,
Yeah.
or it can help. But it's interesting because if you're a fan of Bill DeWeese, he will mention that the majority of his work is not from the agency he signed on with.
Yeah, I think he said it was something like maybe 10% of his work comes from agents, if that.
Yeah, I think it's even less than that.
Yeah, it might be 2%, maybe. I can't
That's
remember.
the number I was
something.
thinking
Yeah,
of.
yeah,
But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But then there are also people who are opposite. The majority of their work comes from agents. So I wouldn't say, no, don't get an agent, but also because you don't have one, that it isn't something that's holding you back.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to have an agent to be successful, to give up your full-time job and to move into voiceover work. It's like, I was thinking about this question too, Corey, so I'm glad you kind of reminded me. It's like the music industry. You know, in the 80s and 90s, you're in a band and you want to get signed to a label.
Yeah.
Now there are no labels.
Right.
Now, I mean, if you look at 2019, 2020, someone like, I'm blanking on her name already. She's the young girl with, she got black hair and she got that green stripe in the middle of her hair.
Oh, yeah. Why do I not remember her name as well?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm old. I'm forgetting her name already. But anyway, so she and her brother produced their albums out of she lives at home with her folks.
Right.
And yet she had the #1 song of 2019,
right,
I guess. And she said, yeah, I can afford to buy a house, but I like living. She's young. She's not even 23.
Yeah.
And people producing music in their home studios now on a laptop. That was a lot that didn't exist in the 80s and 90s and maybe 2000s. But now it's different. Now, if you have talent and you sound great, and you can put together a halfway decent studio, you can get noticed and not have an agent and not be signed with anybody.
It's a lot different than what it was, right? It's like there were so many hoops to jump through before, and
True.
so many people trying to get paid off of the hard work from these artists, you know. And now it's just as like you said, it's you have a laptop and some kind of program to start, you know, making music, and if you have a good voice and a decent setup, you can definitely move mountains in your parents.
But you have to also be talented.
Right.
So please be talented. Billie Eilish, I just Googled.
Billie, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So
yeah, I saw the video, the commercial, or the what's his name there? There's one of those talk show guys there, James Gordon, who did one of those drive. He had like carpool type thing or whatever with Billie Eilish. It was really good. It was quite funny, and she just looks at him and it was like rolling her eyes like a normal teenager would do, right? So yeah, it was comical for sure. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube and check that out. It's pretty funny.
And so the point is that she and her brother produced music in their home.
Yeah. And I remember her brother saying, "I'm going to make you a big star, and this is what we're going to do." And so they went through it, and obviously she's very talented as well. And now he's like a massive music producer. He's like getting signed to all these different places and working with all these different, superstars and all that kind of stuff. So he's done very, very well for himself too. So that's good. It's cool to see that, right? It's really cool to see that. So
I agree.
But like you said, so much different than what it was, even in the early 2000s. Like so I was in radio in the early 2000s, and getting into voiceover was a little challenging, what I found to get into. Now, fast forward up to 2017 or 2017, totally different world, and that's when I started with all these freelance sites and everything like that, and the opportunities and the availability of information on YouTube is phenomenal. And it comes back down to what's better than free. Everything is free when you're starting out for so many things, right? So you can play around with it and start to hone your craft, right? So that's cool.
True.
All right. So now, what rate would you advise someone charging when starting out in commercial VO? I know this is a little bit, flip-flop. People have certain ideas on what you should charge compared to others, and then there's the industry standards that are out there. What's your opinion and just your opinion on when somebody is starting out in this industry? What should they charge?
Yeah. Okay. If you're starting out, then your primary goal is not to make money. It's to establish credibility. And you do that through reviews, whether they're clients who will allow you to post their review on your personal website, and we see this on LinkedIn when one of our VO colleagues has a happy client, they'll take a screenshot of of, oh, I now work for this sign company, or this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a small thing. This mom and pop bakery. Thank you to Mom and Pop Bakery for being my awesome client. And then they'll post a screenshot on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That is what you're looking for when you're starting out. You're not trying to make money at this, because yes, you can make a little bit of money, but you're trying to establish credibility and social proof. That is what you're trying to do. And so I think a lot of people are a little discouraged at the beginning because, oh, I'm not quitting my full-time job yet, and I've been doing this for 6 months. You need to establish credibility. You need to show that you're someone that a client wants to work with.
Right.
It helps to be a cool person to interact with, by the way. I get a lot of rejection. I get a lot of clients who will message me, and we have interaction, and okay, great, we're going to think about it over the weekend and we'll get back to you. And they get back to me on Monday, and not everybody will buy from you. Not everybody will commit. And so when you get the rejection, be cool and say, hey, this is how it goes. And I've been doing this long enough. I know it's creative. I know people change. My latest one, they said, well, they decided to go with a female voiceover. Okay, I can't argue with that. And I say, hey, no problem. Thanks for taking the time to message me. I appreciate you being cool. And hey, maybe next time we'll work together again. Stay safe. That's it. Right. It takes you 10 seconds to write, or have it pre-written and just post it or paste it and send it. Be a cool person to work with. Because once you're already in contact with a client, even if you don't get the gig, you are now on their radar. So be cool. Don't wig out if they decide to go with a different male voice or a different someone of your gender. Oh, we went with this person instead. That's fine. That's okay. Another one will come around. So be a cool person to work with.
Yes, that's a good point for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to be very, very humble with it, right? And it's rejection is part of this business. It's just the way it is. It's part of show business in general, right? I mean, how many thousands of auditions do these, big name actors have done when they were first starting out as well, right? And they didn't get the parts, right? It's just the way it is. It's getting those creative chops and that credibility and every audition that you do, in my opinion, and I know many other people that I've talked to, is a way for you to practice what it is that we do, right? So it's not like you've really lost out on anything. You've taken some time to practice a script that somebody provided you to try and hone those skills.
That is true.
It's kind of a nice payoff. And I mean, the beauty of us being able to record everything ourselves is now that you have, you did that audition, well, now you might have a bit of a sample reel that you can put into a demo as well, right?
That's true.
So there's always pieces of it that you can grab and hang on to, right? So yeah, rejection is just part of the pie of this business, and it's just a process, right? So, but be humble and be kind and courteous, and yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. That's awesome. Okay, what else do I have here? Oh, okay. Here's one. What do you use for a DAW? What's your digital audio workstation?
Sure. And this is also a slippery slope where you can spend a lot of time talking about this. Which one's better? I started in Pro Tools over 20 years ago, and that's because I was doing a lot of music projects. So in Pro Tools, you got multiple, any DAW gives you multiple tracks, but I was working with multiple tracks of instruments. So I came from Pro Tools. I taught that in my classroom. About 7 or 8 years ago, my director at the college approached me and said, we need you to learn Adobe Audition, because we're now going to teach Pro Tools and Adobe Audition in our classroom as part of our production classes. And I said, well, I don't know how to use Adobe Audition. And he said, well, come to my class on Wednesday and be one of my students, and I'll teach you. And so I attended his class for the next 5 weeks, and I learned how to use Adobe Audition. He taught in my very classroom as well. So it was kind of unique for me to sit in the back of my own classroom while he was teaching, but I'm humble enough to learn. So I took notes, and I was a student, and I learned how to use Adobe Audition. And surprise, I found that for the voiceover work that we do, that often involves only one mono track, Adobe Audition is way more efficient than Pro Tools. And that's not to say anything bad about if you got Pro Tools and it's happening, good, stay there. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a thing in photography where they say, what's the best camera? And they say the best camera is the one that you have in your hands right now. Whatever that is, that's the best camera. Don't get all, I I laugh because I just kind of got a glimpse of myself in the fact that there's 15 guitars in the background. So what's the best guitar? Well, I like this one. I like this one. Eventually you get to a point where, sure, okay, I'm going to get as many of them as I can. And so now I have, but you don't need 15 guitars and you don't need 5 DAWs and you don't need half a dozen cameras.
Right.
Just get one that you're really good at, really proficient at, and it can be a free one. There are plenty of free ones there. So learn how to use the free DAW that you have. And if you're stuck, if you don't know how to do that, go on YouTube, because there's somebody teaching you how to use your DAW. About a year ago, I started doing my own video editing. I don't know how to edit video, but I've got some of these programs here. I mean, with a Mac, you get iMovie, so I kind of fuddled my way through that. But I use Adobe Audition. And as an educator, I bought the education suite of Adobe products, and I started using Premiere Pro. And I thought, boy, this is really complicated. So I went on. Yeah, it's overwhelming and frustrating. But I went on YouTube, and I take a lot of notes. And I went on YouTube, and I thought, I typed in Premiere Pro, how to make sparkle text. And there's somebody showing you how to make neon text or sparkle. And if you're willing to, and it's free, if you're willing to put the time in, there's somebody online showing you how to do it.
Yes.
So, okay. So to answer your question, the DAW, I have Pro Tools, but really I use Adobe Audition for nearly 90% of the voiceover work I do.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just got into Adobe Audition what was that? December, I think it was. And before that, for the past few years, I've been using Audacity because it was free. And going to Adobe Audition, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And there was a lot of similarities because in radio, I use Cool Edit Pro. And then I found out that Cool Edit Pro was actually bought out by Adobe Audition. So that's why there's similarities. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So after having the trial for 7 days and then trying to go back to Audacity, I was like, I'm going to spend the money. And I went over to Adobe Audition. I really enjoy it. It's for me, it's very, very easy, but there's still so much that I need to learn. And so that's in my radar here now, that I've scheduled into my weekly, work schedule to take some time and go online onto YouTube. There's one guy, Jason is his name. I can't remember his last name offhand, but he's got like a whole 14-hour program on what to do with Adobe Audition. How do you do everything? So, and it's for free, so
if you're motivated, and if you love this work, you will put the time in, and you'll get on YouTube or online, and you'll find out where, but however, if you think it's an obstacle and you think, oh, geez, I got to learn how, then you're not going to do it. You've already sabotaged yourself in your head. And so listen to yourself. Maybe voiceover work isn't what you want to get into. Maybe that's not. So you have to remember the Beatles records, they were recorded on 4 tracks. They only had 4 tracks. That's right, and listen how innovative that sound was. The Eurythmics, when they came out in the early 80s, their projects, I think, were also it's either 4 or 8 tracks. Their whole album was recorded with minimal tracks, and yet it sounds wonderful. So with the limited technical amount you might have at your disposal for free, you can do surprisingly creative projects.
You just have to kind of tap into that internal creativity, right? And figure out, again, if this is something you really want to do, because let's face it, if I'm not at a level to be able to outsource my editing. I have to do all my editing, right? And some of my editing I really enjoy doing. Some of it, if it's an audiobook, it's painstakingly long, but it's something I have to do because it's part of what we do, right? So so I have to know the systems that I'm working on and figure out what works best to make sure that I'm meeting the requirements for that specific project or that company like ACX or whatever, right? So
agreed.
That's good. Okay, all right. So here's a good one for you, and being that you're a musician as well. What are some of your warm-ups or your vocal warm-up techniques? What do you like to do?
That's right. I saw this question. I gigged with a vocalist in my group who he's probably the most precise singer I've ever performed with, and he never warmed up.
Really?
And I've done so many gigs with him, and I just remember standing next to him, and I've never heard him strain. I've never heard, he makes like rock and roll faces, but I've never
Yeah.
heard him like, oh, like it always just seemed to come out of him effortlessly, and he never warmed up.
Amazing.
And so he was just built that way.
Yeah.
I never him la 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 la. I never once did I ever hear him do that.
Yeah.
Yet there's this other musician singer in our family, and whenever he's with my group, 20 minutes before we hit the stage, he's doing his vocal warm up peppers, and that's his process. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I don't warm up.
No.
I don't have a vocal warm up. But there's one thing I do.
Yeah.
I'll do this. I go.
Mhm.
And that's about the extent of the exercise.
That's about it. Yeah, just to get those lips a little warmed up. That's about it. Yeah.
Okay, I will share some of these things with you.
Sure.
Sometimes I come back to my studio at the end of the night, like around 10:30. My wife goes to bed, and I do a few more hours of work. I'll brush my teeth.
Yes.
I'm going to be in here for a few hours. I want to feel like fresh, so
Yeah,
I'll brush my teeth.
That does a lot. I mean, that's, I've looked into that as well, and that's a trick that I do as well. 'Cause I
Okay,
work
good.
in the evenings,
Yeah.
and it's just to get that plaque off your teeth, and then that stops a lot of that clicking and smacking sound and all that kind of
That's
stuff
true.
too, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it just feels good to have a fresh, fresh mouth when you're talking. Especially like I got a little hole in my wall for my booth and a blanket over top, so you want to make sure you smell good while you're in
Oh,
there.
that's true. There you go. That helps. Always have something to drink handy.
Yes.
Too. That is something. There's a particular style of voice that I do that is a little aggressive on my voice, and I know that if I do too much of that, it's going to wipe me out. So I'll usually save that to the end of the night. I don't have a lot of clients who want that sound, but it's kind of an aggressive sound.
So is it like a high energy kind of like car commercial type sound, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, it is. Yes. To answer your question, yes. And I have to be careful to listen to your body. I had a session recently where I was doing a little bit too much of that, and I noticed for the next 5 or 6 hours I was kind of out.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and so I just relaxed. And next morning I was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't do a ton of warm-ups, and so creative people, everyone has their process. And if warm-ups are part of your process, I'm not saying don't do that. I respect that. That is your process, and so embrace that and do that. Me, I don't have any.
Well, yeah, that's good. I know I know with Bill Deweese, he was talking about his warm-ups as well, and he says he drinks a cup of coffee, just black coffee, and that opens that. He says people don't agree with me, but it works for me, right? And he says it opens up his vocal cords, and he feels good, and so I've done that as well. It works well for me. I don't have any issues with it, but I don't put sugar in my coffee, and there's no milk in my coffee. It's just black coffee, right?
Me too. Black coffee.
Yeah, it's the best, right?
There you go.
That's right. Perfect. The other thing, I did find a YouTube video from another coach who is using this. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it's like abada, ibida, idaba. And it's just like, it's like all these different words that you're using. And he had it on a PDF. I've shared it. I can't remember if I shared it with this group or maybe the VoiceOver Society. I can't remember, but in any case, I've tried that a couple times, and that's pretty fun to do because it warms up the mouth and all the face muscles and such, right? And but I laugh because I sound so funny when I'm doing it. So I want to make sure my wife can't hear me, because I just sound really funny when I'm doing it.
Okay. You're just warming up, just like if you're playing an instrument, you would warm up with scales or some kind of exercise that probably isn't very musical sounding, but you're just getting loosened up.
Right, exactly. And that's the whole purpose behind it. And I mean, I don't do that all the time. A lot of times if I'm like pressed for time and I'll hop into my booth, it's like quick, kind of stretch out the muscles a bit and then start going, right? And drink a lot of water as well. So but no, that's cool. Okay. So those are some vocal warm-up techniques for everybody. So that's good. Is there a certain mic that's best suited for commercial VO projects? And also, what kind of mic do you use? I see, well, I can probably answer that. It's a 416, isn't it?
It is. And it's only because this, so with promo and trailer work, I had done a little homework, and apparently this is the industry standard mic that you'll find in a lot of studios. And so I thought, okay, I'll get that.
Right.
I didn't do a ton of research. I know this is again another slippery slope where you can get into a lot of heated debate about so I'm not here to debate anybody. If you've got something that works, one of my students has a mic that she's using, and it's less than $150.
Yeah.
And yet she has two mics in her studio. She has a $150 mic,
Yeah.
and she has the $1,000 industry standard
Sure.
Neumann. And she said she likes her voice better on the inexpensive one. And I said, then sell the other one and buy 3 of those.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
if I find something that works, as you can see again from what's behind me, if I find something that works, I'll have it set up multiple times, even my computer rig. So I've got my main computer here at home, but I've got a travel rig. So in case this thing somehow quits, well, it takes me a minute to put my laptop together.
Right,
so once you have a system that works, redundant systems, if you have a microphone that you like, eventually buy 2 of them.
Yeah.
So put one in your suitcase, because when we start traveling again, now you have a travel rig.
Exactly.
So yes, this is the mic I use. I'm not suggesting people go out and spend $1,000 on a microphone. These days you can get USB microphones that are surprisingly good.
Right.
Holy
yeah.
cow.
Yeah. When I first started training with you, I was using a USB, was it a Blue Yeti mic? That's what I was using.
Sure.
It did the job. It got me work for 3 years. And I just recently, it was November, I think it was November, October, maybe, that I ended up purchasing this mic, this Deity. And I wanted to go with the 416, but it was just, it was just too much out of my price range at that moment. So after doing some research and looking online with on YouTube again with the Booth Junkie there, Mike Delgado, he did a comparison between the Deity and the 416, and you can actually, the Deity, you can take your EQ and set it so that it's like you're 96%, I think he said 96% close to what a 416 is. And realistically, like nobody's going to know that except you and maybe a couple other, gurus type thing that are really big into mic, and especially if they're big into to like engineering and such, and they can pick up on that, right? But so yeah, that's, and it was half the price of the 416. But my next mic that I want to buy, I really want to buy a Neumann TLM 103. Just because I like that rich, warm sound that it has, and I want to try it out. So, but I think I might see if I can rent one first for a couple days.
That's a good idea.
Try that out first and see. So, but
here's what I would suggest, though, and on the topic of these microphones, because there are people, so much like musicians with guitars, you can buy $100 guitar, and there are YouTube videos that show this. $100 guitar, $10,000 guitar, and he's playing both of them, and he says, can you hear the difference? And okay, to my ears, I can hear the difference, but the average person might not hear the difference. If you are beginning and you're buying an affordable microphone that's not $1,000, okay, that's fine. I don't have any bad feeling about that, but do yourself a favor and don't put it in your profile picture. Don't advertise that. So I have nothing bad to say about Blue Yeti, but in the industry, there is a feeling that, so if I'm a talent agent and I see someone with a Blue Yeti, it tells me where they are in their
level,
and that's not, there's no judgment on that. Well, I guess there is judgment. People do judge you based on your equipment.
Sure, yeah.
So be careful about that. It's not to say don't buy a Blue Yeti. What I'm saying is, okay, get the inexpensive mic, but don't go out of your way to advertise that you have an inexpensive mic, because people will unfortunately develop an opinion because of that.
Yeah, it's the same thing with booths too. Like, excuse me, if you have like a makeshift booth, like my first booth that I had was a Rubbermaid tote that I filled with foam, and I put a moving blanket over them. I did not advertise that I was recording stuff out of a Rubbermaid tote. I didn't tell anybody about that except for people in the VOA industry that have, are either in the membership or, in the society type thing, right? But, and that's just to give people an idea of where to start out. You can start out doing this job anywhere, as long as it, sounds pretty good. You can actually start to get some jobs coming in and start to build up that credibility and start to hone your skills. And then as you continue to move forward and up into the business, then you start to advance to different things, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing with microphones, right? So having a USB mic, absolutely great. Start off with that for sure. And then when cost permitting, then advance. It's like anything else. If you want to advance to the next level of your career, you have to ensure that you have the proper tools to do that job as well. I mean, my next, kind of cash incentive or cash kind of thing that I'm going to be putting into is going to be an actual professionally made booth. And so I just got some quotes done and all that from my contractor. And so I got to come up with about $3,000, but it'll be a booth that I can take apart and move with me to Calgary when we move here in the next, year and a half or so. Right. So, and that's what I wanted.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's just those little bit of progressions each time, right? Start off with what you can afford and keep moving forward. So cool.
I started my voiceover independent career 2015, 2016 in a spare bedroom with wooden floors, hardwood floors, no acoustic treatment, nothing on the walls, nothing on the floor, nothing on the ceiling, no acoustic treatment. A $300 microphone, not top of the line, but also not super affordable, maybe $300 or $400 microphone. And I use the Waves NS1 plugin to try and knock down some of the sound. And that plugin is $26. Sometimes it goes on sale for even less. Okay, so so I started doing my own VO work in a room that was not properly treated, and yet I would still get return clients.
Right.
And so that was where I was at that point at my level. And then now my wife and I, we moved into a different home. I'm in a different spare room, and I've got acoustic treatment on every ceiling, floor, and every wall.
I see you have panels in the back there as well, little square panels and such.
But the point is you build up to it.
Yeah.
You build up to it. And so start small. That's okay. Yeah. And then you get more experience, and then you just kind of grow with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. That's a cool story. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I always like hearing where people started and, their setups and all that kind of stuff. It's so much fun because when you look at people where they are now, and it's like, wow, so it just kind of gives you that, again, it gives people that motivation to be like, well, like that's where Domingo started, and look where Domingo is, that's where Bill DeWeese started. And that's
your closet. Your closet is the best room to start.
Yeah.
And if, I think you know who Tasia is.
Tasia Valente, yeah.
Okay, Tasia broadcasts and does her work out of her closet. You can see her husband's suit coats behind her. She's on a 416, so she spent. She's on a level $1,000 microphone, but she's in a closet, and it sounds great.
Yeah,
and she's working, and so. Yeah,
I know Bill DeWeese said the same thing. That's how he started before he bought his whisper room.
True.
He was in the closet and he just had clothes, and that was the barriers to, deflect sound and all that. So it wasn't bouncing around on a hardwood floors or nothing like that. Right. So exactly. Cool. All right, man. So how do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of things within the VO industry? What do you do to continue to hone your skills?
So what's cool about being a teacher is that I'm humble enough to acknowledge that my students will teach me things. This started happening, I remember, at the college level. I remember in my fifth or sixth year of teaching, I had a student who was doing something on Pro Tools that wait, what did you just do there? Teach me that. And I had my notes, and he taught it to me. And from that point on, I taught it to all my continuing semesters because he knew something that I didn't. And then I passed that knowledge on. So the irony is, for me teaching, I'll see my students do things that I think are fascinating. I like that idea. And I often joke with them. I think, I'm going to steal that from you. I'm going to write that in my notes. When a student reads a script, I have it in my head how it's going to sound, and I can hear myself reciting it in my head. And a lot of times, the way the student reads it is even better than I hear it in my head. And I think to myself, if I were to audition with this script, I would say it the way she just said it.
Right?
Phrase, I like the way she said it better than what I'm hearing in my head. So to answer your question, I learn through being exposed to other creatives. I'm motivated by the examples that you as colleagues, as students, show. I'm influenced by everybody. And so that this is one place in my own classroom is how I can learn. And you would never think that. Another thing is that I'm constantly taking classes. I love being a student. As much as I enjoy being a teacher, I also like being one of the 12 squares on the call who are also reading a script this evening. And it's fun being coached by somebody else. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can.
Right. That's perfect. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like everything that we've been doing for the VO Academy here and our script read sessions and all that, like that's the foundation. That's the foundation of this academy is the script reads, right? Everything else that we're learning on top of that is just an added bonus too, right? But every time we do script reads, I learn so much from these amazing people, whether it's in the free one from the VoiceOver Society or if it's in our membership group, right? It's an amazing opportunity to be able to be around, like you said, our colleagues and learn from them. And I do the exact same thing you do. I'll read that script and I'll be like, okay, this is how it sounds. And then I'll have like one of the members will do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Yes. Like I'm totally going to do it that way. Right. So yeah, you just learn so much. And so like, I want to continue growing my knowledge base as well. And I have a few other coaches that I want to work with, you included, but I would like to get on with Brent as well and get some more training from him. Tasia, I'd love to set some time and work with Tasia as well. She just seems like an amazing human being. So, and I know her and Larry Morrow, they talk quite a bit, so he has nothing but good things to say about her too. So, but there's so many good coaches, and I think when it comes to coaches and when it comes to the training aspect of things, you have to find a coach that kind of fits with where you are at that moment, and you'll learn from each other, right? So because there's so many, right? There's so many coaches to choose from. Which one do you go with? Which group do you join, right? So
word of mouth recommendation.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So cool. Okay. So where am I here? Okay, who are the 3 people who have been the most influential to you in this industry? Yeah.
Okay, I think back to nobody. I was going to say nobody. Nobody's going to know who this is, but here in Chicago, when I interned at my radio station, the production director of creative services is a gentleman named Bill Cochran, William Cochran. I think, well, he goes by Bill Cochran. He goes by Lindsay sometimes too, Lindsay Cochran. And I met him in 1992, 1993. And again, at the radio station, I just wanted to do production. I that's the only area. And so when I met the production director, I walked into his studio and his hair was his hair was longer than mine. He's about 6'2", and he's wearing like boots with heels. And he's wearing like velvet. He looks like he should be in like Motley Crue or something. Yeah. And he's got his bracelets, but he's just a really rocket looking dude. But he's a very down to earth person. And when I met him, he just been with his wife and 2 kids, and he's not a big party person. But he was an important, the premier important mentor in my voiceover career when I started in radio. Very, very kind.
Yeah. And
so even as an intern, he always treated me with respect, and now I'm honored for the last several decades. We're friends. I mean, I started out as his intern, but at some point, we I don't want to say equal, but we started to work together because I was hired, and now we're both getting paid to be here. And then there was a time in the late 90s maybe early 90s, mid 90s, the smooth jazz format became so popular that he did production not only for Chicago, but 7 other stations throughout the country.
Wow.
And he did that on his own time, in his own studio. And he hired me to be his assistant producer.
Cool.
And he would just give me, he would just send me a lot of work, and I thought, my God, this guy's so cool. So he was the first one at the station in my voiceover career who just was very gracious to me. I'm getting emotional. I'm blessed to have met someone like him. There's another gentleman at the radio station. Again, nobody here will know who this is, but his name is Rick Odell, and he was the afternoon person, and he also got promoted to management. Another person at the station who was very, very cool to me. And so I'm forever grateful to these people who helped me along the way. I've had a couple of sessions with Bill DeWeese. He moved out of state. I'm in Illinois, but as of a few months ago, he only lived about an hour and a half away from me. Okay. And 2 years ago, my band actually played in his hometown, and so I coached with him. Yeah. And we would talk, small talk, and he said, "Oh, let me know when your band's playing in my town. I'll come and see you." Let me know when your band's playing nearby. And I said, "Hey, Bill, we're playing in a park and I think it's just up the road from you. And in July of 2019, that's me and Bill DeWeese.
No way.
Bill DeWeese came to my gig.
That's amazing, man. That's awesome.
So he and his wife were in the audience, and it's a modest Park District gig. You can see the audience back there. There's not a ton of people back there, but he's in the audience. And I remember thinking, holy crap, Bill DeWeese is watching me play my guitar. And I had to explain to my drummer, I said, this guy, he's like the Eric Clapton of voiceover. And so
wow, that's amazing that he would, take the time to come out and do that,
Yeah.
That says a lot. Yeah.
He's been very gracious. I've had 2 coaching sessions with him, and they've been a good experience. And I will continue to coach with him because, well, I guess that's a plug to him. I'll give him a plug. I learned something from him every time. So he's a good person. Brent Allen Hagel, who is in charge of the trailer voice artists, very generous. You could tell this guy loves what he does.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I was introduced to Brent Allen Hagel was I saw a video that was posted. I don't even know where I saw it. It might have been on Facebook years ago, but he's doing TV promo work for the CBS show. I think it's Instinct. I hope I got the title right. He was the campaign person who did, and as he was reading, he was using his hands a lot. Instinct tonight at 9 on CBS. He would do this kung fu with his hands.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what's he doing with his hands? And I thought, well, I don't care if I sound like that. I'm going to use my feet too. And so, and so it said to me, who cares what your body's doing? If this is what it takes to get the sound to come out, heck yeah, do it. Yeah. Stand on one foot. And then I noticed on LinkedIn, when I joined LinkedIn about 2 years ago, he was hosting a free voiceover class, and he posted it to his YouTube channel. And I oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I watched it, and I messaged him, please let me be part of your second class, and I'll pay. And he's like, don't pay, it's free. You put you on the list, you will be part of my second class. And to my knowledge, she only did 2 free classes. I was part of that second class. It's on his YouTube channel. It's on my YouTube channel. Cool. You could see me making a fool, embarrassing myself on my YouTube channel. And so that was I think that was the end of 2019. If I'm getting my years correct, the bottom of 2019 was when I was in that class, and a few months later he invited me to audition for Trailer Voice Artists. Fantastic. And so within a few months I was able to join his team.
Wow,
so
good for you. Yeah, so you definitely saw something, and I mean, yeah, your experiences that you had for sure. And it's I'm always, and I've talked about this before in past sessions, and I know you and I have talked about this as well on when I trained with you a bit. I'm always so blown away by how just kind the voiceover realm is, the voiceover people are, like there's so many people that just want to help you. And for like nothing, like, no, it's good, don't worry about it, come on in, let's have some fun, right? It's just coming from industry, corporate industry and all that, and then moving over into the voiceover industry, it's a completely different world. Corporate, I found there's a lot of backstabbing, and it's like, how can I step over you to reach the top, right? And I've not come across that in voiceover. Thankfully, I've not come across that yet. I hope I never do, but I'm sure there might be, people like that, and that's okay. They do their own thing. But the majority of the people that I've talked with and dealt with, I've never had any bad experiences with them. They've always just wanted to help, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So you talk about your people from the radio business, your mentors from the radio business. It's so cool to me that they saw a young kid who is like, okay, this guy's got something. I'm gonna help him out. I'm gonna coach him. I'm gonna mentor him. I'm gonna give him some tools so that he can start honing his craft. And that's all it really takes, is that one person to believe in you. It really takes that one person to be like, okay, kid, you got something here. Let's go forward and see what you can do, right? And it just brings that confidence up, right?
Sure.
So it's amazing. I love hearing those stories, and I thank you so much for sharing the people who have mentored you and have helped you throughout your career as well. It's fascinating, and I mean, you've done that for me, and I I am still so grateful for all the help and support that you provided me and many of us here within the Academy as well. So I thank you for that.
I want to share a concept with you that, and
Mhm.
it's not my idea. I made a note of it when I first heard it, that life is all about teaching
Mm.
and learning. It's all teaching and learning. People come into your life sometimes for a moment, sometimes for a lifetime, or sometimes somewhere in between. And there is something to be learned from that person, and there's something you can teach that person, and vice versa. It's all
Yes.
teaching and learning. And if you can be humble enough to accept that, then I think I think there are good things that await.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been fortunate that I have had several mentors in my life, which makes it easier for me to feel like, oh, I'll give back.
Mm.
I'll give back. I'll spend some time with somebody. I don't want money for this.
Mhm.
I mean, if it becomes a regular thing, I guess I should be paid for it. But
Yeah.
I'll talk to somebody. I'm not going to charge you to get on a 15-minute Zoom call. Um, and although there's some people in this industry who will
Yes. Yeah.
gladly send you an invoice for
Yeah.
15 minutes of their time, and okay, I respect that, and
Yeah. Teach their own. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
that's
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, teaching and learning, and to try and be humble, and you are I use the term perpetual student, and you have to be careful
Yes.
because there's another term called professional student, and one is good and one's bad. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be a professional student and
Yeah.
just keep like, okay, I'm just going to take classes forever and never really get in the ring. But you do want to be a perpetual student, continued education. You want to
Yeah.
keep growing in your field, in the medical field, in the educational field. Continuing education is required
Mhm.
because the way the fields are evolving.
Yeah.
And so you want to keep learning things. And same with voiceover. You want to keep learning techniques, learning about yourself. Um, there's the Malcolm Gladwell thing about 10,000 hours. You do
Mhm.
something 10,000 hours and you can call yourself an expert.
Right.
If you're a voice actor and you're kind of starting out, you don't have an awesome setup, okay, that's fine. You can still practice for
Mhm.
free. You
Mhm.
can still
Yeah.
read scripts. It doesn't cost anything to pick up. I was going to show you my text form. I have it right, but I'm not going to pick that up. Pick up a piece of mail and read it, and 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 rehearse. There are other voice actors, whether you're watching commercials on TV or things on YouTube. I don't want to say mimic them, but try and read like this person
Right.
is reading, and think, oh, I like the sensitivity that he's using. I'm going to try and read that and be
Yeah.
sensitive. Just like if you're starting an instrument or starting a sport, there are people who you will admire and you would think, oh, I'd love to be like this athlete, or I'd
Mhm.
love to be like this musician. Well, then look at the way they've performed, and oh, did you see the way he hit that? He kind of choked up and he used his hips, and so study how other people execute their craft, emulate it, copy it, and then
Mhm.
you kind of put it together into your own style.
Right.
Every guitar player I've ever admired. I'm doing a lot of pointing today. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Ev-
Point
ev-
away.
ev- every I'll put my hands up here. Every guitar player I've admired has someone who they grew up admiring when they were young.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing wrong with looking up to someone and think, oh, I want to try and sound like that person. Okay,
Mhm.
and you but don't be a clone of that person. But I'm just
Sure.
gonna
Yeah.
I'm going to try and borrow from the way he or she executed something, and then
Yeah.
after a while, after 10,000 hours, you develop your own style
Yes. Yeah.
at doing this.
And
There
then
are
using it.
things I can do now that I'm recognizing in my voice that I couldn't do a year and a half ago.
So cool, right?
And
Yeah.
it is weird,
Yeah.
and it is cool.
Yeah.
And it's just like when I was 12 and 13 playing my guitar. Um, I spent weekends just playing. I wasn't big into partying or any of the substance. I was a nerdy kid who stayed home and practiced my scales. And after a few weeks, I discovered, oh my gosh, I'm a lot more proficient than I was last year
Yeah.
because I've spent time doing this. Read out loud.
Yes.
Read your emails out loud.
Yes. Yeah. 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 As long as they're not personal, but yeah.
Oh, there you go.
No, I heard that before as well. I had a radio. One of my teachers in radio broadcasting when I was in college. He'd been a radio announcer for, gosh, I think at that time like 40 years,
No.
He started so long ago, I think he started back in the 60s, early 60s, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And wonderful guy. Bob Layton is his name. Anybody in Alberta, Canada would know who that person is. But yeah, anyways, he's got that big old, announcer style voice, right? But he's been doing this for forever. And he said when he started out, he was a kid. He remember he found in a magazine how to start off his or get into radio is what he really wanted to do.
Okay.
And so he gathered up all his money that he had saved, and he bought a little tape recorder thing that he had, or something to record. And then he ended up taking his head, and he got a box. And he put the box over top of his head, and he talked in the box so he could hear what his voice actually sounded like. Yes, there he is. Yeah, I'm Bob Layton. Yeah, exactly. 630 Chid. That's him. That's so great. Yeah, he was one of my teachers. He's a great man, and he was a funny guy. Like at school, he just shared stories. We didn't really like go into anything. He just shared stories every time he came in. But his stories were a teaching moment for us, because we got to learn where Bob started out. And he told us that all you have to do is start to be great at something. Right?
Yes.
Start and practice. That's it. And that's what he did. And I mean, he has had a massive career in radio, so yeah, pretty interesting with that. So
I also want to share a little philosophy and a little story example with you. So I've been a teacher for decades. At the college level, I've had students ask me for help. And so I'll offer to help them. And sometimes I don't hear back from them. This has happened to me recently in recent years, again, with the pointing. In recent years, I've had people message me, either they find me on YouTube or they find me on whatever platform I'm on, and they'll be complimentary, and they'll say, "Oh, I'd like some help from you," and I'll say, "Sure, send me your stuff. I'll listen." Do you have demos? Do you have recordings of you speaking? And then they disappear, and they don't. And so I think what's happening, you have to believe in yourself. I suspect that these people are dropping off because there's something called fear of success.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. I'm sure we all have fear of failure, but fear of success.
Sure.
Because what happens is now, if I'm in charge of my own success, then if I fail, then that's my fault.
That's right.
You know what? I'm not going to even take a step forward then, because I'm going to stay where I am, because it's a fear of success. And I suspect that that's what's happening with some of these people who reach out to me. And so I'll reply and I'll say, okay, sure. You want to begin? Have you recorded anything? Do you have any demos? Send me something. We'll listen. And they don't. It's odd.
Yeah.
But it's a psychological.
Exactly. It's a psychological thing. And so many people have that. It's called a limiting belief, right?
Sure.
It's thinking that, hey, this is something that I want to do. And then when somebody's like, sure, I'll help you out. Where are your demos? Can you send me some stuff? They're like, oh, crap. I'm not set up yet. I don't think I can do this. Oh, I'm just going to go work for somebody else. Right.
So if you are one of these people, if this happens to you, listen to that. Maybe voiceover isn't what you want to get into, or acknowledge that, you know what, I don't like that about myself. I don't like that I lack follow through. I'm going to follow through the next time I ask somebody for help and they say yes. I'm going to follow through with it. And so I see this a lot. I mean, I've taught hundreds, I've thousands of students, and we're all people. We're all humans. We're all weird. We're all flawed. We all have our thing. And I've seen this behavior enough to recognize it, that a lot of people are sometimes afraid to go in a direction because maybe that's not where they want to be. So I'm in my 50s now, and I remember when I would want to go to a concert in the 80s, we would camp out for tickets. We would sleep. I remember once sleeping in front of a Rose Records for Rush tickets in 1993. We brought a blanket and we slept on the sidewalk because we wanted to get there early to get these tickets.
Big shout out for a Canadian rock band.
Heck yeah. And so we wanted to, and so remember how determined you were when you were younger and you really wanted something? Put that determination into your career. Do you remember when you were young and you first started having feelings for that person in your classroom, and you think, oh, I kind of like that person. I'm going to approach them. I'm going to be social or give them my number. You should have that kind of motivation in your own career.
So, just try not to, I know, and sometimes it's easier said than done, but
true.
That fear has a tendency of stopping us from moving forward. And I can only speak for myself, but I know for me, I've never been one to be afraid to try something new, because I've had multiple different careers and jobs and all throughout my years. Everything from working in the oil patch as a roughneck to driving a Zamboni in hockey rinks, so and multiple other things. But I've never been afraid to try something. If I see something, I'm like, that looks interesting. I think I could do that. And you move forward. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's a learning lesson for me as well. Okay, well, why didn't it work?
Good.
Right? And so I encourage anybody else who's watching this, if fear plays in what it is that you're trying to do for voiceover, try and really push through that fear as much as you can to see what this might come of. You never know what this door is going to open up into, and you're never going to know the people that you may meet throughout this journey, right? That can help you along the way. So just try not to be afraid to try something. Just try it, see what happens, right? So with that, Domingo, I have one final question for you, and then we'll pop off here. I don't want to take any more of your valuable time away from you here. So now I know you have, excuse me, your own workshop and all that. I really want to help promote what it is that you do. And so can you let people in the VO Academy here know where they can find you to maybe come and take one of your workshops and all that?
Sure. Thank you. LinkedIn is probably the most place where I'm seeing a lot of communication for my classes. Cool. So you can message me, you can email me, you can go to my website. It's domingovoiceover.com. But the easiest way to reach me is just to look me up on LinkedIn, Domingo Castillo. And if you're not connected with me, you can connect through Corey, and we can connect. But I'm happy to share information. Reach out to me.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Domingo. I appreciate you taking your time here today to answer a few of our questions that we had here for you. And I'm super, super excited to have you with us for this month.
Oh, it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So everybody, Domingo's going to be with us for the Q&A session on the 24th. Which is a Saturday, and then he'll be with us again for the final script read, which is at the end of the month, I believe on the 28th, which is a Wednesday. So that schedule will be posted up in our Facebook group here this evening. So you guys will have all that along with the Zoom meeting schedule and such. And also with Domingo's link for LinkedIn. Do you mind if I take your LinkedIn profile and I'll put it in the video, this video that I post to everybody, so at least they'll have quick access to your LinkedIn page. Is that okay with you?
Sure. Yes.
Perfect. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, my friend, for taking some time here today. Like I said, I really, really appreciate it. So looking forward to this month, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. Thanks again, Domingo. I'll let you go here. Okay. All right. Take care, my friend. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Okay, everybody. So as you just heard, this month again is all about commercial VO. So I hope you're as excited as I am. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just as always, we'll be doing 3 live script reads, 2 with me, 1 with Domingo and myself. You'll also get that 1-hour Q&A session with Domingo and myself to better support you. So make sure you bring some questions with you. If you can't make it, put the questions in the post, reminder post that I have for that scheduled date when it comes up. And as always, you'll receive continued support and tips on our private Facebook page to help you throughout the month also. If you can't catch the script reads, no worries at all. I totally understand. Like I've said before, I understand things happen, life gets in the way. You're not always able to make it. That's okay. Feel free to go ahead and put your WAV file onto the page there, and we can critique it for you and provide you some support that way. Okay, so that's it. We're going to have a ton of fun. I hope you're excited. I'm excited. Yeah, we're going to have a good time. All right. We'll see you guys here in the Facebook group and on the Zoom meetings. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.